All right. The last topic in this particular art of writing blog track is overcoming writer's block. At some point in time, every writer is going to get writer's block, whether you want to or not. And so understanding the cause of writer's block and how it can manifest in different ways can help you overcome it. Um, some people have that blank stage syndrome or blank page syndrome where they just stare at that blank page and they can't even write a single word. Mid-project freeze. The middle of a book can be kind of a slog, so you can get stuck and not know how to proceed, and that can be a problem. You can lead to writer's block. Self-doubt. So doubting your own abilities can lead to procrastination. And I've published quite a few books. I think I've published like 14 books, and I still have self-doubt, but I have to push through it. And I have to not procrastinate and hopefully believe in myself and push myself forward. I am a bit of a perfectionist, which is number 4 on the list. Fear of anything less than perfect, hindering you from ability to write freely. I've gotten better at this. Whenever my first book, I was terrified, absolutely terrified to have anybody read it. I didn't want anybody to read that book. I didn't even want anybody to look at it. I didn't want anybody to look at the screen whenever I was writing it. Just go away. I don't want anything. And I was terrified when I finally, sent it off to an editor, and when I got it back and I revised it, and whenever I published it. And now, after 14 books later, I'm just like, it was like ripping off a Band-Aid. It was like, once I got the first one out there, it was like, okay, I can do this, and you develop some sort of a self-confidence, and you realizing that your book is not going to be for everybody. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Some people are even going to hate it, but it's your story, and you put it out there, and somebody's going to read it, and somebody's going to love it. And one day you'll be somebody's favorite author. I have a couple people. I get emails every once in a while of people who really, really love the books. So it's those interactions that you focus on, and tend to not focus on the negative. Don't read your reviews on Amazon. Just don't do that. If you want to feel good about your writing, go and read, pick a famous author that's sold millions of books, and go and read their negative comments, because they get them too. And it'll make you feel better about your writing, because everybody gets negative comments. That's just what happens. So overcome your fears and just rip off the Band-Aid and do it. So overcoming writer's block, what can you do? Establishing a routine. So consistency will help train your brain to be creative on demand. Some days it's more creative than others. If you're tired, you're going to be less creative, maybe, or if you're not a morning person, maybe you're less creative in the morning. Finding a time that works for you. Breaking your work down into manageable pieces. So instead of looking at the whole thing, oh my gosh, I need to write 80,000 words, just be like, I want to write this 2,000 word chapter. Focusing on that, breaking your story into small, manageable tasks, and setting attainable goals can help you avoid writer's block. Free writing. You can spend 10 to 15 minutes a day writing without any direction or purpose. Just writing something, maybe journaling, nothing. Maybe it's blogging, just writing something it's like I'm activating writer mind. Change up your environment can stimulate creativity. Go take a walk at the park. Go to the coffee shop. Go to the library. Whatever take the dog for a walk, just whatever might stimulate something else. You need a change of scenery. You need to change it up. Sitting in front and staring at that blank screen and the cursor blinking is daunting. Get up and move and get some ideas. Clean the house, do, whatever. Eliminate distractions. So making sure that you have a quiet place, and setting boundaries for anybody that lives with you and roommates. Like if the door's closed, that means you leave me alone. Making sure that you covet that time. If you have a specific time of day, like from the hours of this and this, I'm writing, making sure that you're staying to that, and that, any roommates or family that's living with you also understands that boundary as well. As I've said time and time again, setting realistic expectations. They need to be attainable. So whenever you have bad days, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Using writing prompts can help kind of get the creative juices flowing, and taking breaks to step away and clear your mind. Walking, exercising, meditating, whatever that might be to help reduce the stress. Don't let writing stress you out. If it starts to stress you out, it's not going to be fun and you're going to stop doing it. So don't make it a chore. Make it something fun. Reward yourself for your progress. So some things that you can do to help foster that creativity and get the juices flowing, and I mentioned some of these before. Read widely, read diversely. I think if you're going to be a writer, you have to be a reader. And you have to be able to willing to read things outside of your normal wheelhouse to learn. And that's why we do it. Different genres, different writing styles, different, get out there and do something different. But I think you have to read. You can't write and not read. So I read every single night. I may only read a couple pages, or I might read, 100 pages. Just depends on how tired I am. But I read every single night. Engage in creative hobbies. Playing an instrument. Doing crafting. I do a lot of crafting. I told you that I do book events at craft shows. So I also have little crafting things that, might as well make money off of my crafting too. But it stimulates the creative side of your brain, and, helps to get those creative juices flowing for writing. Collaborating and working with other writers. So sometimes bouncing ideas off of people, if you're stuck and you say, hey, so I've got this going on, where should I go from here? Getting other people's input, or even collaborating. Trevor and I, we co-wrote a book together. And I know that I would write a chapter and then I would pass it to him, and then he wrote it. And then he would pass it back to me, and then I would write it. And so at conventions we would talk about, so we kind of knew where the story was going to go and what we were going to do with it. But we took turns writing. And so then I would read what he had written, and then I would go off of what he had done. So it was kind of like a springboard, and we're really great about, at events, we'll talk about things and we'll bounce story ideas off of each other and be like, oh, that would be really cool. What would it be even cooler if they did this, And some of those ideas I use and some of them I don't. And it's probably the same with him. But just having another creative individual to talk through story points, I think is a really, really good way to develop new ideas. Keeping a journal. Jot down ideas, observations, and thoughts. I think Trevor's better at this than I am. He has he's showed me, he's got his journal and he has all these story ideas, just tons and tons and tons of them. And sometimes whenever you're working on, I'm working on several stories right now. I think I have 3 stories I'm working on. So I can't afford to take on another story at this time. But sometimes, and I have another idea for a story. So I have to jot that down and I have to come back to it because I just don't have the time and resources to work on 4 stories because that's crazy. So I just need a minute. Embracing failure and learning to grow. You have to understand you're going to make mistakes. I, one year, went all out and did all of these events all over the place, spent all this money and lost my ass on it. I was not ready to grow that big, that fast, and I paid dearly for it. I lost a lot of money doing that. I learned a lesson. The number one lesson that I learned was that solely pop culture conventions do not want original content. So most of the people there are looking for celebrity photos and autographs, and they're looking for their picture, their art of Spider-Man or whatever. But when it comes to actual original properties, there are people there that are looking for that, but it's a lot less than you would have thought. So I learned that that's really not the niche for me. And I also learned that the author events weren't really the niche for me either. I actually did pretty well at most of those, but they're hit and miss. And so I've found a circuit that really works. So, and I try to stay to that. And we are expanding from there. But you live and learn. You live and learn. Exploring different mediums. So writing poetry, screenwriting, short stories, changing up the format. A few years ago, Trevor and I had a poetry project he asked me to work on. That was interesting and that was different. Kind of, change the brain a little bit to work on something different. Set challenges for yourself, experimenting with mashups. I like mashups. So the writing group that I did at the local library, we did an exercise where you wrote a story about a fairy tale character, but you kind of twisted it. And I came up with the Little Red Riding Hood who wore red leather, rode a Ducati motorcycle, and hunted werewolves with her desert eagles. And one of the werewolves was her grandmother who had cursed the entire family. And so she was trying to kill the original wolf, who was her grandmother, to, lift the curse of her family. It was kind of cool. It was a lot of fun, like her with her desert eagles in the middle of the forest, and the grandma like, oh, what big eyes you have, the better to see you with, it was a lot of fun. So, explore new topics and mashups and things like that. And stay curious. Write something new, write something different, try something new, try something different, go somewhere unexpected, someplace inspirational, go to the museum, the art museum, and maybe the art there will, you'll see a piece and it'll just speak to you, and your writer's block will be gone. But it's all about the mindset and the attitude. You need to practice patience and not rush. Your ideas are going to develop naturally. Don't rush it. Don't force it. It'll happen. Maybe you need to step away and take a break. Positive self-talk, you have to remain positive. Focus on your accomplishments, focus on your strength, and it'll impact your creative output. Embrace the process. You have to understand that there's going to be ups, there's going to be down. It's a journey, and the value is in the journey. The value is in the learning. Like, just embrace it and just go with the flow, And don't forget to celebrate the small wins, even the little goals, Celebrate them, boost your motivation and your morale, and just stay positive, and you'll get there. It's a little bit at a time. I always tell people at conventions when I'm explaining the different intellectual properties that I'm writing with and that I'm creating games with, people are like, wow, you've really done a lot. This is really busy. I'm building an empire. And that's what I say. And it's building blocks. It's a little bit at a time. So just take your baby steps and start somewhere, but you have to start at the beginning, and you have to start with the idea, and then go from there and grow from there and learn from there. And that is all I can tell you as an author, is just have fun with it. Happy writing.